Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, the 23rd of August, 2021, and this is your news digest. Let's put it that way. So, we're going to start with, of course, the usual Afghanistan situation, and then we'll be continuing to quite a few political situations, some mentions about tropical storms and hurricanes, and also weeds invading England. Sounds interesting. So starting off with the situation in Afghanistan, an Afghan woman gave birth to a baby girl on the U.S. evacuation plane that she was on. So that's one thing there. Johnson has urged Joe Biden to keep U.S. troops within the Kabul airport to basically defend it after the 31st of August, although Biden has been saying he was going to remove all the troops by then. Now, continuing on the line of how the US is actually doing this, they have now activated 18 commercial airlines, well, not airlines, jets, to join into the effort of removing the people who need to be taken out of the country, basically. So we're not entirely sure how that's going to evolve, but it does look like it's working. One thing about Afghanistan also that is going to be notable is the fact that there's a very high risk of hyperinflation, which basically means that their entire economy is going to crash. Of course, this is not entirely, we're not sure what's going to happen exactly, but the fact that ATMs across the city have been completely emptied and pretty much most of the major banks in the financial area of the capital have been closed, it does lead to believe that there is quite a high risk of hyperinflation and basically the country's economy completely disappearing. Now, let's change over to the COVID situation and some of the more interesting things that have been happening. During a protest in Australia, some of the protesters were horse-mounted. So although we often see horse-mounted police surrounding protests, this was definitely Australia's way of taking it one level further, where they had horse-mounted protesters. So that was that's in their anti-lockdown rally for anyone who wondered. Now, continuing on the COVID situation, there have been other situations going on, especially again in Australia, where, for example, the one Australian council basically decided to shoot shelter dogs instead of letting volunteers pick them up because they reckoned it was too high risk of there being a spread of COVID from all these volunteers going there to pick up the dogs. Now, Trump was booed after telling his supporters to get a vaccine for COVID, and this was at his rally in Alabama, or one of them, and basically people did not appreciate the fact that he was telling them they should go and get vaccinated, considering how he strongly defended against it for quite a while. So that's one thing. Excuse my itch. Sorry about that. Now, coming back to a situation where we were talking about quite a lot last week, the smoke from the wildfires in North America has now reached Europe. So there is sufficient, this has been monitored obviously from space amongst other things, but there's now been sufficient smoke emissions that it has reached Europe. So that's quite a remarkable thing. And speaking of smoke and burning things, the UK's first deep coal mine in nearly 30 years is facing, basically non-existence because the financial backing it was supposed to receive is too controversial and is being shunned basically by the climate impact of such such a mining operation. Now, speaking of Britain, Boris Johnson has kind of been put into a bit of a sticky position because although he had claimed originally that the UK still had many friends in high places, notably the USA, it's proving that he wasn't entirely right, because the current situation with Afghanistan is basically proving that that's not entirely the case. And of course, this is leading to a lot of people starting to, lose faith in the whole Brexit situation, the Brexit deal, etc., amongst other things. Now, continuing also a little bit on COVID, Putin has declared that mandatory vaccines should not be forced, and people should just be encouraged to get them, not necessarily forced. So, although a lot of people have been, let's just say, worried that they were going to be forced into it in Russia, he's said that that would not be the case. And of course, the storm situation. So at least 21 people died in Tennessee floods, and dozens are still missing. So this is when Storm Henry hit the coastline, basically. And when it hit Rhode Island, there was definitely a lot of damage done there, with more than 120,000 homes who are currently without power, and millions of people have now been warned to evacuate due to the high amount of damage. So there's a lot going on due to the storms as well. Now, the Prime Minister of Sweden has stepped down after 7 years of being in power. So this is in light of the fact that there are elections coming up soon. But it's also the second time that he's actually tried to step down, so we're not entirely sure what exactly is going to go on there, but clearly he's leaving the position of power. And just to finish off on a slightly funny note, the council is accusing the fact that in Brighton, in the south of England, rewilding, which is a very big project, actually quite globally now, is being taken a little bit too far, as a bunch of roots have taken root in the city. A bunch of weeds, have taken root in the city. And this is leading to, a bit of unhappiness from the people, considering the fact that all of a sudden there's now weeds growing up between bricks and the street and sidewalk and so on. People are not very accustomed to that sort of thing, let's put it that way. And a little bit of news for Korea. The former finance minister is expected to make a bid to become president of the country, which is considered kind of game-changing because of the fact that he was quite popular, for one thing. So, to be seen how that goes. We can't exactly be sure. That's one of the major, that's a lot of the major pieces of information so far. There's been some speculation as to the new technology that's going to be released soon, namely from both Apple, Google, Samsung, etc. And it's quite interesting to see that Samsung, for example, is bidding on the foldable phone market. Google is bidding on bigger and better. And Apple, no one really knows. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, thank you very much for tuning in today. And sorry for the slightly sleepy one. I do hope everyone has a great week. I will see you on Wednesday with your next news update. And for now, please remember to, like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. Thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye.